Hello, everyone. I see Deb's not going to be here with us today. And anybody who's popping in and happens to see this part, let's just pray all is good. I do appreciate, though, that she lets us know when she can't be here. Yeah. So, anyway, for anyone who's new to my lives or even watching my lives in replay, just know that I always start my live 10 minutes before the actual time. That gives everybody time to get notifications so they can filter in and make it in time for the actual topic. I typically try to start directly on time, unlike last week where I got talking about gardening stuff and forgot to pay attention to the time. It just flew right by. You get talking about those topics like that, or at least me, it's like, you're just going on and on because you're all excited, especially at the beginning of the new garden season. It's always so exciting and it's hard not to talk about that stuff. So anyway, if you're watching this in replay, just scooch it in about 10 minutes and excuse me. And hopefully I'll be done yammering about stuff that has nothing to do with the topic shown in the title. So throat's a little itchy today and I have two topics. So hopefully I'll make it through okay. I got my special homemade throat spray here. This isn't the elderberry tincture. This is a different one. So it does help. This one contains no alcohol whatsoever, but it does contain a substance I'm not allowed to speak of on YouTube, or I'll get in some big trouble and get put on a timeout corner with my nose in the corner because they get pretty upset about that. Dumb. And it's actually a substance that is sometimes still prescribed even. You can make it yourself, but sometimes it's still prescribed in the form of a cream for certain things by certain doctors. But I'm finding out that certain pharmacies refuse to sell it anymore. Go figure. So anyway, since I was talking about gardening, I wasn't sure if I was going to make it here on time to come in early because I was out gardening. Tried to get most of the dirt out of my fingernails. Even though I usually try to wear garden gloves, I still tend to get dirt all under my fingernails. I don't know how it happens. I think dirt gets in my gloves just so it can get all crammed up under my fingernails. But yeah, it's been good. We've had some nice weather. Today is cloudy, but it's it's a decent temperature, not too cold, not hot, and it's actually a good temperature to get out and work in the garden. But I had some more things I'm still transplanting from pots into the ground, or from smaller pots into bigger pots, and then eventually into the ground. Some of them will just stay in pots. Getting my different squash plants moved around. And we had some pretty warm weather for a couple of days, which is not uncommon for May. Sometimes in May, we can get a freakishly hot day. Like we were supposed to have a 90-degree day the other day, but it didn't get that hot. I'm thinking maybe mid 70s, but it was warm. It was nice. But what was I going to say? Anyway, so it's like, oh, I should get my zucchini transplanted into the ground now. And then I'll do that. And then suddenly it'll get really cold. And then the poor zucchini is all like, I went from this nice warm climate into this cold, cold ground, cold, cold air. So what I decided to do, since the zucchini is just growing so fast in the greenhouse and the pots, everything's growing faster in there than usual. I decided to transplant some of it out of the pots I was starting them in into a little bit more spacious pot where I can move it wherever I want and kind of have it get acclimated to the outside. So I have a covered area that's not fully closed in, it's just covered. It's where I grow some of my potatoes, my purple beans, because they tend to like a warmer area, and my pumpkins. And so I decided to just put those in there all the way towards the back where it's going to stay the warmest and most protective. And then I'll kind of move them forward and then go put them out front. Um, Besides, I want to let the chickens roam around out in the front garden as long as I possibly can. But once the zucchini goes in the ground, they're blocked off from there. So let me catch up on some comments before I have to get started. I really want to be on time today. I don't like it when people get angry with me. Let's see. Hi, temporarily chilly and wet Western from temporarily chilly and wet Western Kentucky. There's like here, temporarily warm and dry. And now it's back to being cool and cloudy and eventually rainy, I'm sure. See, I have that particular cream in my medicine cabinet right now, Linda says. So you know what I'm talking about. Well, because you know what's in here. Let's see. I've got my feet up and my lap full of crochet. Small dog under the crochet because it's chilly. Ready to relax. Cody used to like to do that. I'd just lay the stuff over him and work. Usually I just have a blanket over him. Or a lot of times just throw my skirt over him. Because I always have my underpants, pants that I make to wear under my skirts. And then he liked to get in there and be under my skirt. That worked out really good because it works as a blanket. In Southwest Missouri, we're having our normal early May chili snap. The reason Mom and I never plant much until Mother's Day. Yeah, here because our growing season is so short, I try to start a lot of things early, but you kind of taking a chance with some things because it can suddenly get really cold. Even though we don't have really like harsh winters or harsh summers, it's just that transition. And our growing season is just a lot shorter than where I grew up on the other side of Washington State. And so, yeah, if you can get it started early and try to keep the stuff protected and then move it out. I mean, potatoes are fine. Potatoes hardly ever care. My rhubarb doesn't care a whole awful lot either. But, a lot of my herbs, the valerian, the marshmallow, the lovage, all those perennials, even the rosemary, but it is pretty protected right up against the house too. And on the south side, so it gets the warmth coming off of the house as well as just staying protected from too much rain and cold. So it's been doing great. But yeah, a lot of the annuals, tomatoes, I just only grow in the greenhouse. I've tried them out and I've yet to find a good variety except for those blueberry cherry tomatoes that will do well outside of the greenhouse. And those I didn't care for the flavor of. They were beautiful tomatoes, but they were just bleh in flavor. I was not impressed. It was so disappointing because they were so pretty. They were like this deep blue, purpley blue color. And they got about that big, for a cherry tomato, that's, not a bad size, and they grow in these really nice clusters too, not all spread out. Yet the taste just wasn't worth growing them again. Hi from Central Arkansas. We are enjoying a nice rainy day. Oh, you got our rain. There we go. I have seeds started for several things. They just aren't going in the ground yet. Yeah. So like I said, a lot of times I'll start them in small pots, maybe move them into bigger pots. And then if they're going to go into the ground, eventually move them to the ground. So yeah, that's kind of what I was doing with some stuff. The kogi nut squash, that stuff's just going ballistic. And my pumpkins, I've moved most of them out to the covered area, which is where they'll stay. So they're where they're going to be for the rest of the season. And then the extras I keep those in the pots in case something happens to the ones I've put in the ground. That's another reason why I like to start plenty of seed of anything. And that way, if I plant something maybe too soon or it gets really cold, colder than normal, and maybe it kills the plants or makes them really struggle, I can move some stuff, or the slugs get to something and demolish it. and it doesn't want to come back from that. So there's always, it's always good to have extras. And, I can always give away the rest, or, feed the little seedlings to the chickens or something. If it's just, like the squash, all the extra zucchini, pumpkin, and that kogi nut. That kogi nut squash, I'm really excited about that. I think I have this feeling it's going to do really, really well for me. So pretty excited. Looks like it's it's 11:01. So we're going to get started on the topic. Hello, everyone. Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And by the way, what I'm starting to do is cut my little intro and my outro and use them in both videos that I make from each live show. So I don't think anyone will notice. So don't tell anyone, but that's what I'm doing. I'm like, why didn't I just do this before? Because I'm pretty sure nobody will notice that I'm using the same exact one and just repeating it. Because if I don't, what happens is somebody will go, what happened to your greeting? And, and then you got to explain to them, well, it's from a live show where I was talking about several different things and made a few different videos. Anyway, so today, since I had so much fun and making, not just doing the live show on the 27 1970s side dishes, which I know is not even all of them that were popular. Because I remember after I got done with that, I'm like, there was one I really liked that I didn't mention, but I'm going to mention it today, even though it's not a meal. It's actually a side dish. However, the rest of these would be more of your meals. And I narrowed it down to 20. I left some of the ones off that the AI video was talking about. So, by the way, this is another video to go into my series of watching AI videos so you don't have to. So what I'm doing is I'm watching these different AI videos, getting some ideas, taking notes, and then putting them in human terms, as well as just fighting against AI wanting to take over everything, including YouTube. So now the us real live people, content creators, are getting pushed out because the AI is getting all the attention. So anyway, and I know a lot of people actually prefer hearing stuff like this from, well, actual people. So anyway, and by the way, if you're watching live, or if you watch this in replay, or if you're watching the standalone video I make, the separate video I make, the abbreviated version with all the little photos and stuff in there, please put any thoughts or ideas on this very topic. And what was your favorite meal from the 70s that was popular at the time? And yeah, put those in comments or in the chat if you're live. Excuse me. So the first one on the list, this is one I still make from time to time. And in the list I was watching, it was called tuna twist casserole. I grew up, we always called it tuna noodle casserole. I think that was because mom commonly used like egg noodles, not the twisty kind. But if you use the twisty kind, then it's tuna twist casserole. And of course, as with a lot of things, 70s, a lot, instead of making a basic white sauce for it with mushrooms or celery or whatever you want, they would use a cream of something soup, cream of mushroom, cream of celery, etc. We're a common base. But any casserole with a creamy type, sauce, it's so easy to make your own white sauce. I have videos on this. But it's super simple. In fact, now I do all of my white sauces pretty much, I would say 98% of the time now I use milk powders, dairy powder. So I'll use butter powder, heavy cream powder, and whole milk powder. And then I'll make a pretty rich white sauce out of that. And I rarely ever use tuna because we still are working through that home canned salmon from the salmon when Patrick went fishing with his dad a few years back. and they caught a whole bunch of salmon, and his dad sent him home with all his too. So I had a lot to can up, and that I like it better than tuna in the casserole, but it was always one of my favorite. Now, commonly people would add things like celery, peas, etc. I just add whatever veggies I have on hand at the time. A lot of times I'll put in my like chopped dehydrated zucchini into the white sauce and let it rehydrate in the sauce as it's cooking. And I always put cheese on top, like a nice hefty layer of cheddar on the top. I noticed as I was looking up pictures of it, like, man, I don't really see any that put cheese on it. I know people have put cheese in it, like shredded cheese, but I just put it right on the top. So that's number one. Number two, I've never made this, but it's a frosted meatloaf. I think I've heard of it before, but I'm like, wait, frosted meatloaf. I've heard of that. It sounds disgusting, but it's not. And I'm sure a lot of people watching that are familiar with it know exactly what it is. So what the frosted meatloaf was is you made your meatloaf, and then you made your mashed potatoes, and then you spread the mashed potatoes over the top of the meatloaf before you baked it. And yeah, that's where you got your frosted meatloaf. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know that I would try that, but an interesting twist on your standard meatloaf. Now, I do like adding interesting twists to my standard meatloaf. Like I did a video years ago on making an Italian meatloaf where I put Italian seasonings into the meatloaf itself and then made my homemade Italian sauce and then put that over the top of the meatloaf. And that's pretty good. I've done that a couple of times. Sometimes I'll give it a more Mexican flavor. It's just fun to kind of mix it up. But yeah, I don't think mom ever made a frosted meatloaf. I don't remember that one. So this one I know I've had and I've heard of before, but in the 70's, it was a lot of your kind of Hawaiian flair, tropical flair dishes were pretty popular. And so there was the Waikiki meatballs. Meatballs were a pretty popular dish in one way or the other, but one of those popular dishes was the Waikiki. So you had like pineapple, some kind of pineapple sauce or any other tropical fruit you wanted to add to it. And you cooked the meatballs. You would have likely browned the meatballs first like you normally do, and then you cook them the rest of the way in this tropical sauce blend. We always just added tuna and some chopped onion to box mac and cheese. Oh, back when we felt safe eating box mac and cheese. I'm going to get to that one shortly on the mac and cheese. Let's see. I do make meatballs from time to time, but usually it's something we'll do in a white gravy and then serve it over rice. I think the Waikiki would be a good one also over rice if you wanted to serve it over something. Here was another one. Now, this wouldn't apply to us exactly, but because of the type of meat it is, but you could always switch it up. This, again, this isn't really what I'd consider a meal. I consider it more of a side dish, but I went ahead and wrote it down because that was the other thing about this video. Even though it was said meals, I was thinking main dishes. They listed a lot of things that were more side dishes, and some of them the same that I mentioned in last week's video. But anyway, deviled ham logs. So it was any kind of deviled meat really mixed with cream cheese, seasonings, and rolled in chopped nuts or potato chips. So this would be something you could serve with crackers and stuff. But so even though it's a side dish, I thought I'd leave it in because I'm like, well, that sounds really good. I could see doing some kind of deviled meat, a meat puree. Or I do something like this, I guess you could say, in the fact that I do the salmon dip. And that's in cream cheese, and then I add onions and garlic, but I don't make it like a log and roll it in nuts or potato chips for that matter. But that sounds kind of good. But anyway, this was a common dish that was served. Again, sounds to me more like a side dish or an appetizer. This one sounded really interesting. Never heard of this. It was called Chinese pie. And though the video was saying that nobody knows why it's called Chinese pie, as I'm watching how it was made, I'm like, I think I know why they called it Chinese pie, even though it's not from China. It's an American dish. Or is it American or did it come from somewhere else? It didn't come from Asia, I can say that. And basically, it was like ground beef, onions, cream corn. I'm surprised I can read my terrible handwriting without my glasses on. And that was then wrapped in mashed potatoes. Like they wrapped it in the mashed potatoes, and it looked a lot like maybe a dumpling. That's why I was thinking maybe that's where it got the name of Chinese pie, because it looked kind of like, some kind of Asian dumpling. And then you bake it until it was browned. So I thought that sounded kind of good. It sort of reminds me of kind of like cabbage rolls, but except for cabbage, you're using mashed potatoes to roll it up in. But then in cabbage rolls, you're usually cooking them in like some kind of tomato sauce or something too. So what's this say here? Spencer wife is close to me. I have about 30 minutes to the capital. Curious how one can be both a spinster and a wife. Very funny. Okay, I don't know why I took my glasses off. I need them. It's easier to read this terrible handwriting of mine. Another meatball one was porcupine meatballs. I think I've heard of these before too, but I don't know that I've ever had them. And basically, it was just the uncooked rice was put into the meatballs before cooking them. So, and then though the meatballs were cooked in tomato sauce, and so then the rice, as it would cook in there, in the meatballs, in the sauce, and then it would look like kind of spiky. So that's how it got the name porcupine meatballs. Does anybody? Oh, yep. Chick Girl says, I love porcupine meatballs. Never tried them. Like I say, I think I've heard of them, but interesting thing. I don't know that I would do that simply because when I make meatballs, like I said earlier, we always just serve it over rice anyway. But then again, you're still getting a different flavor because you're cooking it in a tomato sauce rather than a white sauce. So that could be an interesting take on it. Let's see. Okay, so I'm to the one. This is another side dish that I'm like, why wasn't that in the list? I should have added it myself, but I didn't even think about it until after I was done doing that live. And that is carrot raisin salad. I loved carrot raisin salad. I've always loved carrot raisin salad. I remember when I was a kid, when I first saw it, I'm like, that looks kind of gross. But I tried it. Mom was always very strict about me trying things. So I was the same way with my kids. And I loved it. So I think, isn't it? I've never made it, but basically I know it's like shredded carrots and raisins, and then mayonnaise, sugar, some add coconut and pineapple to it as well. Again, they like getting those tropical flavors in there, which I think sounds good. I don't know that I've ever had it with pineapple and coconut, but I'm pretty sure all I've ever had was the standard carrot raisin salad, and I loved it. It's just kind of a fun way to get some more vegetables in and in a different color besides green. Let's see here. Next one. So some of the ones, just so you know that, anything I mention that's a pork product, if you're like me and you don't eat pork products, you can always just do something different. Come up with a different idea if you like the basic idea. Use any other kind of meat. But this one I think I've also heard of, but never ever had. And I'm really curious as to if anyone out there has had this and what they thought of it. And it was a ham banana hollandaise. And so they would take the bananas and wrap them in thin ham slices and then make a hollandaise sauce and pour that over it and bake it. And I thought it was interesting. And I wonder if it's any good. I wonder how it would taste with something like, I could see turkey, like turkey slices being a good replacement for that. I don't know. I mean, most of your sliced meats like that are so highly processed. So I wonder how you could make something differently and not use highly processed sandwich meats. Because, like, I'm thinking turkey slices off of your turkey, like you bake a turkey, then you cut some slices off. They're not gonna hold together the way that highly processed stuff does. So you'd probably have to think of a different way to make it, like not wrap it, maybe layer it more like a casserole or something, if it's any good. So I would love some feedback on that if anyone's ever had something like that. I'm not sure if it sounds interesting, but I'm not sure that I'm crazy about the idea. So this one I liked, though I've never had, and this was a real common cheap way to have hamburgers, but in a different form, and it was hamburger boats. And so you take your hamburger buns and you hollow out the bread, and then you toast it, and then you fill it with your browned ground beef, spices, veggies, and top it with cheese. I thought that sounded kind of good and kind of a fun way. It sounds like something kids would really enjoy. Let's see here. See, okay, I thought somebody said something about meatballs. I'd rather have it mixed in the sauce, no meatballs. Rather have it mixed in the sauce. Sorry, I got lost here. So you tried it, baked bananas got slimy. Ew. They made it sound like it was kind of popular for a short period of time, but it doesn't sound like it was something that was popular for long. I do not want to. Okay, sorry. I'm just trying to see if there's anything in regards to the food. It's okay. You guys keep chatting amongst yourself about whatever you want. I'm just checking for comments on food related stuff. Okay, another one. Now I mentioned quiche in last week's video because I was comparing the souffle to, the spinach souffle being one of those kind of side dishes, but quiche as a main dish. So quiche Lorraine was typically eggs, Swiss cheese, bacon, and what else did I write here? Oh, another one where I can't read my handwriting. Oh, onions. Duh. And of course for me, some people probably used ham pieces. For me, I would just if I ever made a quiche again, if Patrick would be willing to eat one for dinner, because I don't want to make it for breakfast. I would use beef bacon in this. That Painted Hills beef bacon is such a good replacement for any pork bacon. I love it. I like it better than pork bacon. I can honestly say that. Not so much turkey bacon, but the beef bacon. Okay, this one I have made. I haven't made it in a while, but that's beef stroganoff. So Americans took the Russian beef stroganoff and basically Americanized it. And basically, it's just like a ground beef and mushrooms. It's a very simple, inexpensive dish, which a lot of these are, because the 70's was also about making inexpensive meals. And this says onions, white sauce, and served over egg noodles. But the way I learned it wasn't just a standard white sauce. You actually use sour cream in there. That's what gave it that more Russian flavor, I guess. I don't know. But I like beef stroganoff. I just don't make it that much. It seems like Patrick liked it when I made it before, but he typically doesn't like things with cream cheese or sour cream. But if you don't say anything and you make something, you don't tell him what's in it, a lot of times he'll eat and realize he likes it. And then you tell him, he's like, oh, that was good. And then he won't mind eating it again. So it seemed like he liked it when I did it before with sour cream. But yeah, I do like beef stroganoff, and it is simple. This one, chicken Devon, which I'm pretty sure I've had or made something very, very similar. And it's simply like a casserole made with chicken and broccoli baked in a cream sauce and topped with cheese and breadcrumbs. Or you could use cracker crumbs. Most of us have, like, who make our own breads. A lot of times we can have some, left little bits of bread left over. There's getting a little dry. Those are the perfect things to use for your breadcrumbs for any of this stuff for toppings. And you bake it, and then the breadcrumbs get kind of crispy on top. I always forget about that, though, when it comes to making any kind of casserole. I'm like, why don't I think to do that? To get that nice little crispy bit on top. See, I make a taco quiche. That's really good. That does sound good. Yeah, Patrick liked the quiche when I made it many years ago. It was before we even had kids. It was a long time ago. He just thought it tasted too much like breakfast, and he doesn't like breakfast for dinner. That's just the way he is. I'm going to can beef stroganoff tomorrow without the dairy, quick to open, add sour cream, and put over noodles. There you go. Good plan. Good plan. Okay, so potato peel soup. So obviously, people who were really scrimping and saving would save up those potato peels and just make them into a soup, just like you would with, using the bones. So you'd have your bone broth, and then you'd throw in, after you strain all that out, throw in your potato peels from maybe you made mashed potatoes or something, and whatever vegetables, herbs, spices you want to add, and make potato peel soup. For some crazy reason, I've never done that. Typically, my potato peels, Patrick doesn't like potato peels on anything ever. So typically, what I do is the chickens will eat them, and both the dogs used to eat them. Obviously, Cody's not with us anymore, but we still have Luna around. In fact, yesterday, Luna was here, and I was cooking up a roast with some potatoes and carrots, and I peel the potatoes, and she'll stand there and wait for you to throw potato peels to her. She loves potato peels, raw potato peels. I know that the way I talk, it makes it sound like Patrick is a real picky eater. He's definitely pickier than me, but there's just certain things he really doesn't like. He doesn't typically like sour cream. Anything sour or fermented, he typically doesn't like, as far as foods go. And he doesn't like a lot of nuts like pecans and walnuts, but he loves peanuts and almonds and other such. So it just depends. It's just that there's a lot of dishes and side dishes that involve things like sour cream and cream cheese, but most of the stuff I make that have those in it, he's liked. I think it just depends on how heavy-handed one gets with that stuff. But like with the the salmon dip, the base is mostly cream cheese. He really likes it. And even though it's mostly cream cheese, I think because that flavor of the cream cheese is overpowered by the salmon and the garlic and the onions and the liquid smoke. I'll throw a little bit of liquid smoke in there. And I forgot to put the liquid smoke in the last batch I made. I'm like, there's something wrong with this. Something's missing. It took me forever to figure out what was missing. Finally, I realized, oh, I forgot the liquid smoke. Okay. Now this one I'm reading off just because it was interesting. I don't know that I would do this. And again, if I was to do this, I would, well, let me just read it. Again, it's another one of those I'm curious to see if anybody in the comments or in the chat has ever made this or had it. And it was a cherry cola pulled pork. And I uh, I I could see doing this with like a roast like elk or beef, like that beef roast I did in the crock pot yesterday. I let it cook all day, and I love that I can plug it into the solar power, and it just was falling apart. But apparently the cherry cola adds an interesting kind of flavor as well as a glaze, but it just kind of falls apart like that. And I thought that might be interesting. Now, I do like to keep on hand, especially when there's any kind of family events coming up. I have a little refrigerator we keep in this big great room, my ex dance room / martial arts room. Now it's our great room that we use for a lot of things, and typically family gatherings happen in here because it's the biggest room in the house. And so I have a little refrigerator where I keep healthier sodas in. So I have like the Ollie Pops, and they have a cherry cola that tastes pretty decent. So I might try that with a roast at some point. But I would still like some feedback and see what people thought about that before I try it. But anyway, a lot of these meals were things that were things that people had on hand, and they were trying to be creative and put things together to save money. And what's this one? Let's see. I've done Dr. Pepper brisket. Okay. And Olipop also has their own version of Dr. Pepper that's pretty good. I forget what it's called, Dr. Goodwin or something like that, because obviously they can't call it Dr. Pepper. Let's see. A local restaurant does Dr. Pepper pork chops, probably similar. I've heard of it, but never had or made it. I tried potato peel soup. Big no. Peeling taste is so strong. Yeah, Patrick wouldn't like it. That's why I personally would never do that, because he doesn't like potato peels in stuff. I'm not saying he'll never eat them. It's just I think he's one of those. I think it depends on the potato. Like red potatoes, yellow potatoes, the peel's really thin, not like your russets. I don't even grow russets. I don't buy russets. We're not crazy about russet potatoes. The peels on them, no matter how clean they are, do kind of have a dirt taste, and they're tough. And the flavor of the potato itself, they might get big, but they're just blah. Yellow types of potatoes are always our favorites. So maybe he'd put up with it if it was something like that. Or if you fried up the peels or something, I don't know. I just have always peeled them because I know he just doesn't care for peels on his potatoes. Um, I don't really either, to be honest. And I certainly don't like peels in my mashed potatoes. I've seen somebody do that one time. Bring mashed potatoes to something where they didn't even bother peeling the potatoes. I've never even heard of anyone ever doing that before. Maybe you guys have, but that was the first time I had ever seen anyone do that. I'm like, what are these brown things in the potatoes? And then I finally figured out it was the peels, which was, I'm like, that's interesting. I mean, it didn't taste bad. It was just texture, I guess, not what you expect. I make homemade soda pop from water kefir. Yeah. I do the what I call soda, the fermented. I've done that. I've even made a root beer using real, is it sarsaparilla or is it sassafras? Always forget which one. Um, you make the root beer from. And it turned out pretty good, but it was a little too strong. I used way too much of the root. But it got that nice fizzy root beer flavor. And but I like having the canned, even though they're expensive, I do like having the canned Olipops on hand for company, especially when we're doing big family things, because they're easy and they're just right there. And there's a lot of different flavors, and people can just go help themselves. So I leave the peels on for mashed potatoes, really, but only reds. Okay, well, that I can see more so. Reds or yellows. We don't peel our potatoes for mashed. Really? I guess there's a lot of people that don't. I've just never seen that before. Don't care for russet or white potatoes. With my own really thin-skinned fresh potatoes, I sometimes leave the peels on. Now, I will, but I should say, when I'm gathering the potatoes at the end of the season, I will take the small potatoes, like the small yellow potatoes, just wash them really good and bake those in a roast or something, or chop them. Leave the peels on. I don't bother peeling. It's a pain peeling little tiny potatoes. Who does that? And Patrick doesn't mind that. And it could be because they're young potatoes and the peels are very thin, very tender. And then I'll chop them up. And a lot of times I'll bake them in butter or add them to a soup or stew or a roast. He doesn't mind that at all, and I don't either. We also like our mashed potatoes lumpy. We're weird. You guys are weird. Just kidding. I just had never heard of that. I don't know. Maybe it's just I don't peel potatoes. Never thought about leaving peels in mashed. Yeah, I don't know. It was just different. Anyway, to me, sorry. Okay. Let me finish on the potato peel soup. It was often, with your veggies, your broth, but sometimes people added milk or cream to it to make a more creamy kind of soup. So there's that. Okay, salmon patties with cream potato or cream peas. This was this was a pairing. You had to have your salmon patties with creamed peas. I'm trying to remember I'm trying to remember ever having that. And I've never made salmon patties. I always say when I think of it being such a thing, I'm like, I got to try making those sometime. Now, what I do like to do every so often is make what I call beef veggie fritters. Usually, I'll do this during the time of the year where the potatoes are ready and the zucchini is ready and the zucchini's coming in like crazy. And then you'll shred up your onions, your zucchini, and your potatoes. Now you could make little vegetable fritters out of just those, but then I take all that and mix it in with the ground beef and then make little patties out of them. And those are really good. And I fry them in coconut oil. Oh my goodness, those are good. I haven't made them in a while though. I have a video or two out about it, but I haven't made them in a while. But boy, they are yummy. The tricky part is that they're kind of a one dish meal, so it's kind of boring looking. You got because you got your vegetables. Oh, carrots! I forgot carrots. Shredded carrots in there too. So you got your vegetables with the zucchini and the carrots, and then you've got your meat, and then you got your starch with the potatoes. So it's basically a one dish meal. So I'm always like, what should I put as a side? Salad is a good side for that, but really any other kind of vegetable you can do if you want. Or you can just have it be your beef veggie fritters and call it good. Depends on how fancy you want to get. But we have all those side dishes you can make too, like the carrot raisin salad, the what is it? The green bean casserole, some of those other things. Okay, so we're getting down to we're number 16 now. Egg drop soup, another one I've crazily not made yet, though I've made something similar. So egg drop soup, I was surprised to read that, I always thought of it just being an Asian soup, but apparently it was a very popular soup in the 70's because it was cheap. And now with a hot and sour soup, which I have made and do have an old video out on, you do a similar idea. But the difference is you got chicken in there and you've got some other stuff in there, but you might scramble up an egg and then you slowly pour the egg. The soup has to be really hot and you slowly pour your egg into the soup as you're stirring it. That's why it's called egg drop soup. So egg drop soup is made the same way. And then it will kind of ribbon out and can make a really good healthy soup that way, especially if you don't have, if meat is really expensive and you don't have good access to it, but you have eggs, especially if you have your own chickens. It's a cheap way to add protein. In fact, the other day I made normally when I make a fried rice, I'm making it when I have some kind of leftover meat. And, whether it be chicken or beef or, well, usually one of those 2. Sometimes I'll do it with salmon, leftover salmon. However, this last time I went to make it, I realized, oh, what did I do? I ended up using up oh, I know what it was. I'd already used up all the chicken and made a chicken bone broth, but I didn't have any of the meat left over from the chicken, and so I thought, "Wait a minute, I know what I'm gonna do." So I took the chicken broth I had made, instead of dehydrating it and stuff, I've just been using it up, and I cooked the white rice in instead of just using plain water, I used the chicken bone broth I had made, cooked the white rice in that, and then I scrambled up an egg and then chopped it up and then added that in for the protein. And so that was a pretty good way to cook up some rice. So if you've got a lot of bone broth made up and maybe you don't feel like canning it or dehydrating it like I usually do, excuse me, use it to cook up some rice. And if you can't have white rice, then another kind of healthy grain, like I was talking last week about the barley. Uh, try doing that. Use your bone broth in replace of water when it comes to cooking your rice. And like yesterday when I made that, because I still had some chicken bone broth left. And I'm like, oh, I got to get this used up before it goes bad. And I'm like, oh, instead of just throwing water in the crock pot, I'm going to throw in the chicken bone broth. Is that going to be weird? Chicken and beef mix? No, it turned out pretty good. So, yeah, A lot of ways you can use up broth. So, used to make egg drop soup. Kids loved it. I should just try that. But the hot and sour, there's a similarity to it, but it's hot and sour. So it's a spicy soup with vinegar in it too, and that's where you get the hot and sour. We used to get that at the Chinese restaurant, and we literally, our small little town at one time had the best Chinese restaurant on the whole, at least in the whole Washington state. But people would honestly come to our tiny little podunk town just to eat at our Chinese restaurant. It was the best. The people that owned it were wonderful people. They had 3 daughters, and they were all in dance at one point with me. And anyway, there, in fact, Robin Williams even ate at our Chinese restaurant, and a couple other famous people came just to eat at our Chinese restaurant that no longer exists, but because eventually moved out. Her husband passed away, and she moved to the city and sold the place, and whoever bought it, I think it finally closed down, but yeah, it did. Whoever took it over, they were terrible. It was terrible. It wasn't the same. We miss the original people that own that place. So anyway, yeah, that's where I first tried the hot and sour soup and loved it so much I had to learn how to make it myself, and I did. So, okay, yes, boxed macaroni and cheese was a very popular dish to serve in the 70s. Now, here's the sad part about this is I'm sure back then boxed mac and cheese wasn't quite as bad as it is now. I don't know. I was a kid. I didn't read ingredients. You just assumed it was a food product. It's supposed to be good, right? They're making it for you to eat. It should be good for you. Oh, the days of total ignorance. Um, but and here's the thing, when I was going through Amy Decision's Tightwad Gazette books, she did a lot of stuff from scratch. But when it came to macaroni and cheese, she would buy, you could get boxes of mac and cheese, like 4 or 5 boxes for $1. And so in the long run, you were actually saving money, because to buy the cheese fresh and grate it up and then make the sauce and do all that, it's a lot more expensive. And I'm sure it probably still is a lot more expensive, because you're actually using real ingredients when you make your macaroni and cheese from scratch. You're using real ingredients, because you're using real cheddar, real milk, real butter, real noodles. It's a real macaroni. But you can get organic macaroni noodles, pasta. Like I do get from Azure Standard. Just buy a big old bag of it. So if I'm in the mood for macaroni and cheese and I want actual macaroni shaped noodles, I have them. And yeah, it is more expensive to make it healthy, but it's still relatively cheap, and you can add meat to it. If it's one of those things, especially when you've got a lot of hamburger meat, ground meat of any kind, and you're wanting to really stretch it, you can just brown it up, add a little bit in there so you get a little bit more protein. And it just, I know growing up as a kid, I loved macaroni and cheese, and we always had lots of boxes of macaroni and cheese on hand. And I learned how to cook it up myself at a very young age. But it's been many years since I've ever bought a box, because I realize it's easy enough to make it yourself, even if it is more expensive. It is not as frugal to make it yourself. There are things that aren't as frugal to make it yourself, especially if you're going with high quality ingredients. But mac and cheese is still a great dish, and you can make it. It's so versatile in the fact that you can add whatever you want to it. You can add broccoli. Again, with the zucchini, I like to dice and dehydrate up a lot of my zucchini. That'd be something I'd cook in the sauce as I'm making it, so it would rehydrate, and then I'm getting the vegetables in there too. Or you can even do half macaroni with half little pieces of cauliflower, so you're not getting quite so much carbs in there. Or just use cauliflower. See, Azure even has Bio Nature sourdough noodles, and they're a better price than Amazon. I can't eat regular pasta, and gluten-free is never that great. Yeah, it tends to fall apart or makes the water really, really starchy. But I can eat the sourdough pasta. Yay, that's cool. Let's see. One of the weirdest tips I ever got was to use chicken broth when making beef barley soup. It makes a big difference. There you go. Grew up on box mac and cheese. Not good anymore. I don't eat it now. I never understood those box mac and cheese. Made once, never again. Yeah, see, I could barely remember what it tastes like because it was so many years ago. But that's basically what I grew up on. Again, like I said, my mom was very much in the 70's. Everything came from a box or a can. I mean, there was things she would make, but it still started off from a box. Like she would make my birthday cakes instead of buying them, but she got cake mix and box frostings. And so growing up, canned chili, I didn't know that people could make their chili from scratch or their cream of mushroom soups or their beef barley soups or the what was I just talking cake. I didn't know that cake was made from scratch. I really didn't. So these are things I learned as I got older, and as I got into my teens, I was like, I want to learn how to do this stuff from scratch. And the first thing I ever made from scratch, because I just had a hankering for it, I was so hungry when I got home from school. I was 9 years old and decided I really wanted to make some cornbread. And that was before mom always had that Jiffy cornbread on hand. So, but we had a box of cornmeal with a recipe on the box, and I made myself a pan of cornbread from scratch. It was great. We actually had all the ingredients on hand, which was wonderful. And I could read. So wasn't that hard. I remember thinking how I was so proud of myself. But mom had no idea I was doing that either. But I was so proud of myself. I'm like, this is actually pretty easy. You just read the recipe and you follow it and you bake it. Easy. And I had a friend over and she helped me eat it. She thought she really liked it too. And then, oh, well, with that said, it's funny. I was just talking about that. Chili and cornbread, another very cheap, popular 70's meal that I think is still popular today. I still like to make chili, but I make it from scratch. Again, it's one of those things that I don't think I've had store-bought chili since I was a kid because it's so easy to make your own. It can just be time consuming if you're starting off with dry beans because you want to cook them, get them cooking a whole day ahead. It tastes best too, if it cooks for a whole day, personally. And then homemade cornbread to go along with that. And I'm talking like Johnny cake cornbread with that. That's what was more common for us. Not like the beans and cornbread, the Tar Heel style, where you have the non-sweet white cornbread that's not as fluffy as the Northwest cornbread that's yellow and sweet. So that I'll serve with chili, but the white cornbread, Tar Heel cornbread, that gets served with the pinto beans that I've cooked, and yeah, totally different flavor there. So let's see, and that was a very cheap meal. That's why it was a very popular hillbilly meal. And Patrick's dad grew up on that: beans and cornbread, biscuits and gravy. And another one I keep saying I'm going to make and then I forget about is stuffed bell peppers. So ground beef, rice, tomato sauce, and onions all stuffed into a gutted out green pepper. You cut the top off and doesn't have to be green. I've always seen it in green. And then you just, take all the guts out and then put your meat, rice, tomato mixture on the inside and then bake it. Now, I remember as a kid, I didn't like cooked peppers as a kid. I liked them raw, but I didn't like them cooked. And so I remember trying this as a kid and I did not like it because of the pepper. But I know I would love it now because I like peppers cooked, raw, it doesn't matter. So, hi, Heidi and all, just got home. See, my mother was the same. Everything came out of a box or cans. Even been learning to cook for more than 20 years. So yeah, I had to learn in the 70's was really when at the age of 9. started learning a little bit at a time. So by the time I was in my early teens, I was making pies and biscuits from scratch because mom never did that. And I loved biscuits and I loved pie, and I wanted to learn how to make these things myself instead of going down to the frozen department or buying Bisquick. Excuse me. Glad I have my water handy. Okay, there was one more on here, and that was hamburger gravy over bread. I think it was it just plain bread? So you made again, a lot of the white sauce stuff you see in these 70s dishes. So hamburger gravy, the brown hamburger and a white sauce, whatever your herbs and spices you're going to add to that, and served over typically white bread. Now, this is again similar to my meatballs and gravy, similar idea, but we serve it over rice. I would gladly have it over pasta or toast. There's some of this stuff I would say, oh, I think this would be good over toast. Patrick is always like, no, I think it's best on rice. He'll eat it if I serve something over like pasta that he'd prefer over rice, but I just always do rice for him when it's stuff like that because he likes that best. And then I can just make a big pot of rice, and then he's got leftover rice to eat for breakfast with milk and cinnamon sugar every so often. So those were the 20 forgotten meals. Now, some of these I have forgotten, honestly. Some of them I do make. Some of them I've never heard of. Some of them I would do differently if I was ever going to make them. But yeah, that banana thing, that banana hollandaise thing, I'm just not sure about that one. I like bananas, but that just to me does not sound great. So anyway, I do have a second topic. See, I stuff pepper with multi-grain mix and clean out the fridge for veggies inside. There you go. Cool. Chicken and waffles is great. I never had cornbread waffles. Got to try that. See, mashed potatoes. I made hamburger gravy last week, and my sister-in-law, who doesn't like gravy, loved it. So you serve that over the mashed potatoes, I'm assuming. That sounds good. I would certainly do that. Oh, on a shingle. The stuff on a shingle. What is that? I know what it is. I can't remember what it is, though. I know what it is, but I can't remember. I had it before. Chip beef over bread. Okay, there we go. Yep. I've had that before. Oh, because that's basically what I was describing. Similar, anyway. We had white gravy with a little vinegar, cut up boiled eggs. Still make it. What's this one? When he mentioned it a couple months ago, I was a little grossed out, but when I saw the cornbread part, I decided to give it a shot. See, my hubby loves hamburger gravy over taters. Okay. Cool. Well, thanks for all the input, people. Pueblos. Okay. So I got a second topic because this has worked good for me to do two at once, and then I have less days I have to plan around trying to shoot videos, which is the other reason I like doing this. Because I typically get at least one day a week during the week where Jace is not here. And next week it'll probably be a different day. And I know the week after that, I'll probably do the live show on a Thursday because that's his birthday in 2 weeks. And so I won't be watching him that day because they have plans. So I'll probably do it on his birthday. So it'll be a Thursday. So it's always hit or miss. Anyway, so the next topic is is still going on about the 3 foods I store, but now I'm getting into the list of 3, so I'll cover 3 at a time. Foods that I grow. Some of the most important foods that I grow to put up, not just to eat fresh, but to put up for long term. Boy, I'm drinking a lot more water today. I must be thirstier. Sometimes I bring my water in here and I never drink it. Now I'm afraid I'm going to run out because it's just a little glass. So the number one, well, I'm not going to say it's the number one thing. Well, maybe I will say it's the number one thing, only because when I first started really thinking about gardening, this was years ago. This is before I felt, that we had to garden to save money, or we had to garden to, you know, have a hedge of protection against inflation and all that. It was about wanting good tomatoes. Because the tomatoes in the store never have flavor, at least out here where we're at. And I really wanted to grow my own tomatoes, because I use tomatoes so much through the year. And I know I've shared before how one of the first things, besides flour, because I've always done a lot of baking, that was important for me to stock up on, make sure I had a lot in my pantry, was whenever the store had their, not the stewed tomatoes, but the crushed tomatoes on sale. Those are my favorite because I can use them in so many ways. I can use them to make salsa. I can use them to make sauces. And so I would, whenever they had the big size, it used to be, I think at one point, 16 ounces. Now they're like 15. Last I was buying them years and years ago, they're probably like 13 or 14 ounces now because of shrinkflation. But I'd buy the bigger size when they would go on sale and stock up on a bunch because I always needed them. And then I'm like, man, I really want to grow my own tomatoes. And so that became, when Patrick first built the greenhouse we have right now, it was for the sole purpose of growing tomatoes, and that's all I grew in there. And that's mostly still what I grow in there, though. We've got shelves in there now where I'll grow the hot peppers, or I'll start seeds for things I'm going to grow outside, and maybe have a few other things. Like now I've planted a few cucumbers in there, but still it's mostly tomatoes, because tomatoes to me have so many uses. But the number one thing for me is making my Italian sauces, and that I use for homemade spaghetti, homemade lasagna, homemade pizza, homemade ravioli. I know there's one I'm forgetting. And then I use the tomatoes in making chili. And I also use tomatoes as my base for making things like enchilada sauce or tamale sauce. And though a lot of times, traditionally the more authentic way was to use chilies, but I can grow tomatoes, and I learned how to make these things with tomatoes. So tomatoes is always going to be my base. And so there's that. And then I also like to add them to soups and whatever through the year. Meatloaf, whether it be the tomato flakes or the little diced dried tomatoes, either way. When it comes to soups, I do like adding the diced tomatoes in certain sauces, but mostly it's the tomato flakes I use. So those let me see. Oh, barbecue sauce. There's another one, another sauce that I like to make. And then, like I said, meatloaf, I like adding into the meatloaf, or sometimes making a sauce to go over the top of the meatloaf. So the number one way I put up my tomatoes now, I used to always can them, but the number one way I do it is I process them fresh in a blender. I dehydrate, I pour them out on my silicone trays. I dehydrate them. I flake them. I do not powder them. I flake them up and vacuum seal into jars. And right now I'm going through jars from 2021. And because I put up a lot. And there's several reasons why I like it this way. One is that by doing that, I can just do it as they're coming in. I don't have to worry about running my canner, and I can save a lot of space in my pantry. I can have so much more tomatoes put up in the form of dried in one small area than I ever could when I was canning them. And so with that said, too, though, I can still take those and I can make salsa from them, or make any of these things. In fact, I just made spaghetti this last week with a sauce using tomato flakes. In fact, everything that went in my sauce was dehydrated. Just add water or some kind of broth, and cook it up. And you can, if it's, I never measure, I just start putting stuff in there. If it's too thick, add a little more water. If it's too thin, add some more tomato flakes. I don't have to have a tomato paste because the more of the dried flakes I add, the more it's going to thicken up without the need for a tomato paste. So I can make a tomato soup, anything from a tomato soup or a salsa to a nice, rich, thick sauce. And I can do all that with tomato flakes. So it is a very important crop for me to grow. And yes, eat some fresh, of course. There's hardly much better than a nice warm tomato fresh off the vine out of the greenhouse. Oh my goodness, so good. But then a little salt if you have it, but with those homegrown tomatoes, it's not as necessary as those tasteless ones you get at the store. And so that is a very important crop to me because the way I use it, and I have a lot of tomatoes put up this way, a lot. And I will keep always putting up a lot in case I ever have a bad year where I don't, for some reason, none of my tomatoes make it. And I got to have my tomatoes. So always will be putting up a lot. Okay. Another one would obviously be potatoes. Potatoes are a good calorie source, carb source for energy, and also because there's so many things you can do with potatoes. You can have mashed potatoes and fried potatoes and baked potatoes and the butter baked potatoes, especially them little baby, potatoes, little small ones, and hash browns, French fries. You can even make your own potato chips. I've done that. They're really good, but it's not something I do much. It's mostly going to be fried or mashed potatoes is the two main ways that we're going to use them, or throwing them into soups, or with with a roast like I did yesterday when I threw those potatoes into the crock pot with the roast. And my favorite way to put them up. Oh yeah, and don't forget the thinly sliced potatoes for making moussaka or scallop potatoes if you like that. Anything where you're going to have those sliced rounds of potato. Mine always get used for making moussaka when I use them. So my favorite ways to put up potatoes now are the dry canned, meaning I'm still canning them in, a pressure canner, but I'm not adding water to the jars when I can them. There's some special steps you got to take to do this, such as you want to strain them really good, then you mix in some butter to coat them all. And some people will tell you, oh, that's really dangerous. You shouldn't do that. You do what's best for you. I decided last year to try it. And I'm like, when it comes to canning potatoes, this is the best way to do it. I've done it uh, when I first started canning and I was canning potatoes. I did it the way I was reading in a few different places that said you're supposed to cook the potatoes first and then you can them in water. Hated them. And then after that, I put them in the jars raw and then added the water and canned them. And that just obviously cooks them. And those were decent. I didn't mind using them in potato salad, but they still weren't great for like frying up and adding to other things. The only way I could seem to handle them or not handle them, the only way I really seemed to like them at all was using for potato salad. But the dry canned potatoes just turn out better all the way around. And you can fry them up. They're already cooked, so you just fry them on a high heat. You could mash them up if you wanted. I probably wouldn't do that. You can throw them into soups and stews and however you want to use them. They're great. And making potato salad. I haven't made potato salad out of those yet because I usually only do potato salad once or twice during the summer season, but most of the time it's just, we're just using them straight out of the jar to fry or to put in with a roast or something, or a casserole of some sort. So there's that. The other way I like to put them up, which is really nice to have on hand, is to mash them, make mashed potatoes, not add a bunch of fancy stuff to it, just mashed potatoes, and then dehydrate them and then powder them up. Now, they take longer to cook up as a mashed potato than the instant mashed potatoes you buy at the store. I'm guessing those are either freeze dried or who knows what they do to those. I never bought those, but I mean, not for at least a good 30 years or so. I don't know even know if I've ever bought them since I've been married. And we've been married for 36 years. So I don't know if I've ever bought them. But these are more grainy when you dehydrate and powder them, but they still cook up nice. You can cook them in broth to add some nice flavor, or just in plain water, and then add your milk, and then add some butter, salt, whatever you want to add to them. I've used some to make cold cannon, and I've used some to make a shepherd's pie. So they are nice to have on hand. And again, it's a way you can put up your potatoes long term. And when you need to make mashed potatoes, and maybe it's later in the season and you're out of your more fresh potatoes you have in cold storage, well, you just pull down a jar of your mashed potato granules and cook them up, and now you've got mashed potatoes. It doesn't take that long to cook. It just takes longer. Where like instant mashed potatoes, you can basically just even add cold water and they'll just absorb the water, and now they're mashed potatoes, cold and kind of nasty. But you have to actually kind of cook these, even, you know, in for them to really rehydrate well. But I really like that. And again, it saves a lot of space in the pantry. And then the only other way I'll dehydrate them now. Well, I didn't do this last year. I might do this at some point, but the one year I did the video on dehydrating potatoes where I had diced and sliced. The sliced ones were great. The diced ones, I'm guessing, it's harder to tell if they're dry all the way through when you dehydrate them. And so it's pretty clear I had some jars where I put the potatoes in there assuming they were fully dry because they felt like it, but they must not have been fully dry because they ended up getting moldy or just smelling nasty when I went to open them up. So I had to throw a lot of those out. But all the sliced ones are great. They've been great. Some of them have darkened, not all of them, but some of them have, but the flavor's still good. They don't smell bad. So I'm still using those, and I'll still put them up that way because it is really nice to have those when I want to make moussaka and I don't feel like peeling and slicing potatoes, or maybe I don't have any potatoes to peel and slice. So you just cook them in some hot water for a little bit, and then they'll rehydrate, and then you make your scalloped potatoes, your moussaka, your whatever it is you're going to make with the thin sliced potatoes. And then if I was ever to do diced potatoes again, I would cut them much smaller. I would cut them really, really small. So, Mother Earth Products, I was buying some diced potatoes from them, dehydrated, and their size is real small, and those are perfect, actually, I find, for adding to soups. So that's the size I'd probably do if I do decide to dehydrate them in a diced form. I'm not sure if I'll do that, but I might. So let's see here on comments. I finally found an explanation that said dry canning potatoes or canning is only a problem if you do not get every speck of dirt off of them, because that is where the problem is. It still seems silly to me. I peel them anyway, so that shouldn't be a problem. And I still don't see why, even if you had a little speck of dirt on there, what would the problem be? The dirt's going to be there. If you should try to have nice clean potatoes, whether you're dry canning them or canning them with water in them. So I don't get that. And then the coating of the butter is going to help keep them from turning color too. That's one of the reasons why I got that coating. What is it? You soak them in a little bit of vinegar water, you strain them out really good, you coat them in butter, and you salt them, and they're great. The tiny eyes of the potato you're talking about. But again, it's dangerous. Well, if it's canned under a high temperature like that, it shouldn't matter if it's in water or not. So I guess that's what I'm thinking, but I guess I understand. I don't know. Maybe I don't. I don't know. Okay, so that's the potatoes. I was going to talk about a different garden thing, but since the picture I used for my backup thumbnail was a picture of tomatoes with zucchini, or is that the picture I did use? No, I didn't because I have I always have my reboot just in case, and so I'll have that picture be my secondary topic just in case. But so that thumbnail, if I was to fall back on that, is the tomatoes and zucchini. So I decided I'll just talk about zucchini and I'll save the other ones for the next three because I have several. I have several that are main staples that I have to grow. So the thing I really like about zucchini, at least where we live, is it's very easy to grow. So we live in a place, as a lot of you know, just gets a lot of moisture. Zucchini likes a lot of water. So it loves it here. It doesn't get too hot for zucchini here. And it tends to just go ballistic. And you have zucchini coming out your ears, which I love that. I love having zucchini that I can give away. So not only can I put up a lot of zucchini, if I'm just getting far more than I have time to put up, I can give it away to someone who could use it. And there's always somebody happy to take it, believe it or not. But zucchini, because of its mild flavor, has so many uses. I've done a few videos of the many uses of zucchini. But the number one ways that I use it is to, as I've already said, in the first part of this, is I like to dice them up and dehydrate them. And then from that point, they can be used in so many ways. They can go into soups, they can go into sauces. You can rehydrate them and use them in stir fries. You can powder them and then add them to breads to add more nutrition, cut back a little bit on the flour if you want to do that. So you're getting a little less of the carbs and a little more vegetable. And it actually makes your breads nice and soft. Usually, I'll only use about a quarter cup or so of the squash powder, whether it be coming from zucchini or pumpkin or any other kind of squash, to a bread. I keep saying one of these days I'm going to try upping the ratio even more just to see what happens. But at least with that, I know I'm adding more nutrition, but it also adds a nice soft texture to the bread. And then there's the pineapple zucchini, which is a nice treat. That's just something usually just I eat, or the grandbabies sometimes when I remember I have it. I do have some back there I did not last year, but the year before last. And I wouldn't say it's my absolute favorite thing, but it is just a nice treat to have on hand. And if you like pineapple in cottage cheese or something like that, you can mix your zucchini pineapple in with cottage cheese. And I do have a video on this I did a few years back. And it doesn't have to be pineapple zucchini. It could be black cherry zucchini or raspberry zucchini or apple zucchini or whatever you want it to be. It just depends on the juice you're going to cook and can it in. And then because zucchini has such a mild flavor, it's going to take on the flavor of whatever juice you can it in. Usually you're adding a little bit of lemon juice and some sugar. And so it's just like a lot of people will use pineapple zucchini or whatever flavor they're going to do in place of real pineapple for whatever they're making. Pineapple upside down cake or something. Well, it wouldn't look the same because you got to have the pineapple rings with the cherries, but or some kind of like banana bread with pineapple in it, because you can also shred the zucchini and then cook it in the pineapple juice and have it be like crushed pineapple. And so people will use that in place of crushed pineapple. But the problem with that is if you don't live in a place where pineapple grows, and so that's your excuse for doing that, well, you still have to have the pineapple juice. But it can still be a fun thing to have on hand and a fun way to put up your excess zucchini. Let's see. And then I don't do this a lot or do a lot of this, but I have actually canned zucchini pressure canned it, diced, so I can just have that to, use as is. It does get a little mushy. I've also chopped it up and frozen it, and again, it gets a little bit mushy, but it can be a good option to have on hand, one or the other, the canned or the frozen, but really the dehydrated I find to be the most versatile. So, after 3 ads, I finally made it. Yeah, there's really actually no way to do a live show anymore without having ads, but I do disable ads through the live show. But then once the live show, just in case you don't know how this works, the live show takes about 12 hours for it to process. And during that time, it shouldn't show any ads through the video, through the live, but I can't even download it. But once it's finally processed, done, it's sometime in the middle of the night, it then puts ads wherever it wants. And I can't, I have to actually get in there and manually turn that off. I can't have it turned off from the start, unfortunately. It's really weird. And so until I get a chance to get in there to download the video and turn off the ads, they will, once it's processed, they will always be in the middle of the video. And I never know where they're going to put them. This is why I hate ads all through videos, because it can interrupt you, especially during a live. So what I do, the only option they give you for ads during the video is to one of the options is to manually insert the ads as you go. Like I could go, okay, I'm going to put an ad here, and I don't know how it works because I won't do it, but I just make that selection and then I don't do it so that we're not being interrupted. But now they're putting the ads in that I've never seen from my end, but apparently they're putting them in the chat too. Man, every way they can to make money while they cut back on what you make off of your hard work. It's always nice. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic. I'm just looking over to make sure I said everything. So, okay. So for this list for today, because I am doing this as a playlist, 3 foods I store or 3 pantry items I store. So right now I'm to the videos where I'm talking about 3 different foods that I grow and put up and like to put up a lot of. And not just enough to get me through a year. I want enough to get me through 2 to 3 years in 1 year. And that way, if for some reason, especially with the stuff, either I can't get it all, like the stuff I'm going to buy and store, or the stuff that I grow myself, you never know when you might have a bad year for whatever reason, be it weather, be it pests, whatever. Or maybe just the inability because you're having some kind of health problems that you can just simply cannot garden. And or some other life crisis where that whole thing has got to sit on hold for a while. And I want to know I have enough of these very important foods that I can use in so many different ways in my pantry to get me through a few years, to get me through whatever may happen as far as gardening goes or my ability to garden. So I thank you for that. Yeah, I try to, the only ads I allow just on videos at all, like, when you pre-record a video and upload it, you can select to have no ads through your video, or I just leave, actually you can select to have ads through the video. I always leave that deselected. I just have videos at the beginning, and I think sometimes they put them at the end. I don't know, but I hate interruptions. I hate that. I don't like my videos being interrupted. I don't like my followers having to put up with that. And you know what gets me is I go through all this. I could make more money off of my videos by doing that, but I refuse to do it. And yet, I'll get people that will complain that I talk too much or just get to the point when I'm sharing relevant things that I know other people would appreciate. And they never even stop to think about the fact that I'm one of the few channels out there that doesn't put ads all through the middle of her videos. So it's like, stop your whining and be grateful for what you're getting here. It's an absolutely 100% free education. Sometimes I feel a little conceited calling it an education, but me sharing my experience, okay, and what I know so far. I'm not always right on everything. It might be right for me, it might not be right for everyone, but I like to share my experience just like I enjoy hearing your guys' opinions and experience, just like these foods. Some of these things I've never made or know anything about. I like hearing people's ideas and thoughts and experiences. And maybe I'll try it and maybe I won't. But at least I have these options offered up to me. So at any rate, yeah. So I appreciate when people appreciate the fact that I don't put ads all through my video, and I pay the price for it. I pay the price for not putting ads through my videos because now, in the last couple of years, YouTube only wants to push out videos that have ads all through them. That and the AI videos. And so since I refuse to do that, they just don't want to even promote my videos to my own followers, which is frustrating. I still have people coming in going, "Man, I haven't seen you in a long time. Where have you been?" I've been here all along. You can take that up with YouTube and why you haven't seen me. What did this say here? So many people are doing members only, and then I just stop watching it. I don't do members only either. Some of them will do. There's one channel I like to watch every now and then just for fun, and she does members first videos, and which means people who are members, those are shown to them first, but then usually the next day it's made public to everyone, which is cool. I don't mind that so much, but I won't even do that. I thought about it one time and I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that. See, never mind the people complaining. You have taught us all so much. Thank you for that. Definitely is an education. Thank you, Chick Girl. And I get some ideas from you guys too. And so I do appreciate that. And Chick Girl, I do notice, even though you don't always have a lot to say in comments, I notice that you always make it a point to at least put a smiley face, and I appreciate that. Every comment is another plus because the more comments, the more likes, even dislikes, as long as it's engagement, YouTube sees that as a plus, no matter if it's negative or positive, and it's more likely to push your video out to more people. So, what was that? Don't try the ham banana thing. That just sounds gross. Well, I don't eat ham anyway, but if somebody said they did it and they really liked it, I would see trying it with maybe a different kind of meat, but I think it sounds gross. I don't think I would try it. No. See, there's foods I don't like. I still have foods I don't like. Now, Pat, he doesn't mind, here's where I might be more the picky one is he doesn't mind a good fried chicken liver. I will say his mom made good fried chicken livers, but I am not a liver eater. I do not like liver. I did eat some of her chicken livers and was surprised at how good they tasted, but they're still not my thing. I'm not a liver person. It's a filter for one, but that's even before I knew what it was. As a kid, I always thought it was the most disgusting tasting thing, and I still think it's gross. Pat liked his mom's chicken livers. Now, I don't know if he likes beef liver or not, but he's never asked me to make it for him, and I won't. Yuck. Just grody. No offense to you people who like liver and onions. That's just nasty. You're eating a filter. If I want to eat a filter, I'll just walk out to my car, pull the filter out of there, and start gnawing on it. Just kidding. I wouldn't do that either. Hubby says to me, you know what that liver does, don't you? Yeah. Certain things I just think were not meant to be consumed. I know it's high in iron, but I'm not supposed to have so much iron anyway. So I use that as my excuse, even though I do okay if the iron's coming from a natural source. But yeah, I can bypass the liver. I'm fine. I'll be okay. But and there's other things I don't like. But the funny thing is, mostly for me, it was when I was a kid, there was a lot I didn't like. I was definitely a much pickier eater. I liked a lot of vegetables raw, like cabbage, peppers, and mushrooms. But as soon as you cooked them, ugh, the texture just grossed me out. Now I'll eat all of them cooked or raw. I don't care. I like them all. And eggs, I hated eggs no matter how they were made. Scrambled, fried, hard boiled, I hated them. And then I think it was about the age of 6 I realized I actually liked hard boiled and scrambled eggs, but I still didn't like fried eggs for a long time. They're still not my favorite way to eat eggs. But yeah, liver makes good doggy treats only. I agree. I actually have some lamb liver in my freezer that one of these days I'm going to make into doggy treats for at least Luna. When I run out of the other little cookies, bone broth treats that I have for her, I'm going to start pulling some of that stuff out and make dog treats out of it. Love liver. Well, you can have mine. No, not mine. I need mine. I got to have mine because it's got to filter my blood. But any liver anyone from anything else that anyone wants to offer me, you can have it. Somebody's got to consume it, I guess. My parents loved liver. So every time they didn't make it a lot, thankfully, but when they did, that was the only time they would make sure they had a dessert. And that dessert was, well, at least the one I remember the most was when they had raspberry turnovers. One of my very favorite things. And they knew that. And even then, I think they really believed that, knowing how much I loved raspberry turnovers, I think they really believed that that would be the motivation I would need to eat the liver. Let me tell you, I tried. I couldn't do it. I even tried to get my cat, who betrayed me, to eat it. She shook her paw at it and she sauntered away. And I'm like, you're supposed to love this stuff. What's wrong with you? I'm trying to sneak it to the cat, and she would not eat it. She was such a little snob. Seriously. She would shake her paw at it if you offered her something and she thought you were just, it was like she had this attitude that, well, if it's not good enough for you, it's not good enough for me. You betrayed me, cat. You didn't eat my liver so I could have raspberry turnovers. So I got no raspberry turnovers. I don't remember them serving liver again after that. They probably realized that she must really, really hate it. Not even worth getting a raspberry turnover for me to try to gag that down. I did try, and I just literally gag reflex. And I remember thinking I was going to throw up all over the table. See, I bought diced frozen veggies from Azure to restock after moving. Was thinking of dehydrating. Guess I got to really dry them. They are 1/2-inch cubes. I think it depends on the veggies. But yeah, some veggies are a little more porous, like zucchini is very porous. It dries up. I mean, and it's got a lot of water content, so it dries up beautifully. Potatoes tend to be more dense, and so they can be harder to get them to dry thoroughly. But yeah. So let's see. I've dehydrated the frozen veggies just this past year when we ran out, and it worked fine. But then again, I dehydrate a long time. Liver and onions, best present I can make for son-in-law. Well, he can have all of it too. Yuck. And it's funny because my parents loved it. Liver, onions, cabbage, Well, my dad was Scottish, and I always loved corned beef, but hated cooked cabbage. If they had served it on the side raw, I'd eat it. But he would make the corned beef and cabbage, and I'm like, man, why do they got to keep ruining the corned beef with the cabbage in it? Love that corned beef though, still do. And it's so good dehydrated up. So you cook it and then you freeze it or you cook it, you dice it, you freeze it, then you dehydrate it. Oh my goodness, it is such this wonderful, tasty, crunchy little snack. It is so good. But yeah, I try not to use it as a snack because I could just easily eat a whole jar of it. I try to save it for making cold cannon or something like that where I want to add corned beef to it. Yum, yum, yum. Good stuff. So it's already 12:30 on my end, 12:25. So I should probably get off here. But it was a good talk about food. Food's always a good thing to talk about, isn't it? We can talk about food. It's a good, happy topic. It's not that stressful unless you're stressing out about whether or not you're going to have enough of it put up, then that can be stressful. By the way, I got to say, I don't know if anyone's ever followed Ice Age Farmer. We really like Ice Age Farmer, Christian from Ice Age Farmer. Um, he had this channel and we were following him. And then sometime in, was it 2021? He just disappeared. He just vanished. And I'm like, I wonder if he just quit making videos or if he got banned from YouTube or something. Well, I found him again, but I think it's a different channel. So I think he did have to just start up a whole new channel, and is it called Unshadowed? I think it's called Unshadowed. I'm wondering if you type in, let me look it up myself. I wonder if I typed in Ice Age Farmer, if it would pull up his. I recommend his channel if you just want someone who does talk about some of the events going on, especially in regards to food. And Unshadowed is the name. In fact, I'll get the link to his channel and put it in here. So he's back on there and he talks about gardening. And some people might see it a little bit fear-mongery, but I don't. Not compared to here's the link to his channel right there. Not compared to certain other channels. He's just a lot more mellow. He's a lot more cool. He's just sharing the facts of what's going on out there. And I'm so glad that he's back on there again on YouTube. But if you just want someone who's definitely more calm, but you want to at least have a little one of those things like with us, I like to at least keep my finger on the pulse of what's happening to kind of keep me motivated to want to keep pushing ahead on my garden and also helps me decide what is the best, what kind of foods should I focus on the most for my garden. We're thinking things that are high calorie, things that we use a lot, and things that are multi-purpose, as well as things that we know are going to grow well in our area. Nothing wrong with trying a few different things. Like me trying a coconut squash. I want to see how well it does, but I'm still growing my regular pie pumpkins because I know I can grow those. I'm still growing zucchini because I know those will do great for me. But there's nothing wrong with trying something new or a new variety every so often. But you want to it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like it's important to really focus on the things you can grow well and use a lot of and or share. Like the zucchini, I tend to have plenty to share. I think being motivated to keep ahead on those things is good as long as you're not living in fear. And I guess that's why I like watching him, and because he's not constantly cramming the fear thing down your throat all the time. I mean, I've never, I don't have Telegram. I'm not interested. I don't have any of that other stuff. I hardly follow anyone on other social medias other than YouTube because it's just too spread out for me. I can't keep up on all that. So that's why I'm glad he's back up on YouTube again. So just in case anybody wondered what happened to him and wanted to find his channel again. So let me put that link again here. Let me put Ice Age Farmer. And yes, it is Unshadowed. I can't see what I'm saying. I should put my glasses on. Unshowed? Unshadowed. I should have put my glasses on before trying to type. Okay, so there's the link again. This time with the title, so you know. If you want to go subscribe to him over there, because we need to build his channel back up to where it was. Because I mean, you can see he's got the plaque on the back. He's got the same, you get when you get your first 100,000 subscribers, you get the silver plaque. But I don't remember what it is he has right now. He only has 17,000 subscribers, and he's been growing quite a bit since coming back on, but he had to start all over. So clearly it's a different channel. But anyway, so just a little if you're just looking for another good channel, another good person to follow, and it almost seems like the second time around I like him even better. So definitely a good person, and I recommend him. Let's see if there was anything else. I think that's it. So I better get going. I'm sure you guys got to get going. You guys have a life too. And so that's why I so much appreciate you guys taking the time to, there's the day's always going to be different from week to week. So I really appreciate your guys' patience with that, and just taking the time to come in here and hang out with me, to share your thoughts and your opinions and the way you do things. That's just so important, not just to me, but to all of us. And we can learn so much from each other and each other's experience in these various different things. So, yeah, I appreciate your support. You guys are wonderful people. And thanks so much for coming in. Take care and God bless. Love ya. Bye.